Throughout your degree, you will often be asked to make suggestions for how a website would look, either perhaps your own website if you're in your third year, for a brand that maybe you're launching or creating a sub-brand for, or maybe you're researching a brand and you're making a new proposal for how their social media mock-ups would look like, or their website, or so on. Now, you don't necessarily need to create a whole website, as that takes a long while and it's not a skill that you necessarily need to use on your degree. Instead, you can take screen grabs of other websites or their websites and just do simple edits to it and suggestions, and add suggestions along the way to sort of illustrate how you'd like the website to look, which is a bit like the example that I'm giving here. So somebody's sort of taken a website, added some extra bits to it, and then annotated it with their own text exactly how they'd see it functioning and how they'd like it to work. They've done the same thing here with some social media, online, Facebook, Instagram examples. And what's really nice with this one too is they've actually illustrated what they'd look like on a desktop computer, as well as an iPhone and iPad too, because obviously websites look quite different across all these different platforms. So it's quite nice to illustrate that too. Whenever you're trying to do proposals for websites, it's always really, really nice to actually illustrate it rather than just talking about it or just writing text, because it brings it to life a lot more. And there's some simple ways that you can do this in Adobe Illustrator, Photoshop, or even InDesign, which is what we're going to look at in this tutorial. And again, here's a nice example how somebody's just shown what Instagram looks like from the home page when you click on an image, and actually how you can, with omnichannel retailing, how you can actually purchase on there. So that's a really nice illustration of how the app would work for a brand proposal. So let's have a look at how we can do this. First, gather all the bits that you might actually need. So you can go to your retailer's website, or perhaps there's just a website that you like that you're going to take it and make into your own. So it might be that you take a website like this and then you'll take off their logo and put your own, or replace it with your own icon, or whatever you wish. The best thing to do is take a screen grab. You can take a screen grab by pressing Shift, Command and number 3, and it takes a picture of the whole screen, or Shift, Command and 4, and you'll get an icon like this come up, and you can just drag and over the selected area that you want to actually take. You might not need all the area at the top, just what you can actually see. That will save that to your desktop. So get together anything that you might like. It might be that you want to scroll down the website and get some bits from the bottom too. That might be also quite relevant, and you can join those together later on. So take screen grabs from wherever you want. For social media mock-ups, it may well be worth also going to visit things like Facebook pages for the brand as well. And remember, they look very different on desktop to your phone. So take a screen grab here, because you could always show what it looks like on a desktop. And then also you can take screen grabs on your phone too, by pressing the volume button and the power button at the same time. And then you can just email those to yourself. Once you've got everything that you need, save them to a folder. I've got mine on my desktop here. So I've started to get some screen grabs which I've taken from my phone and emailed to myself. And I've taken various different things from their Instagram feed as well, because obviously it will look different from the home page to some of the bits in their feed. You might want to get the same from Twitter, TikTok, depending on the brand that you're looking at or what you want to do. And then get some from their website like I've done just now. They've obviously just saved, which I'll drag and drop there. Everything that you might need prepared and saved in a folder. So I'm going to begin by working in Illustrator. I'm just going to go to File, New, create a new document. I want mine to be A4, and I also, because I'm working on things like websites, it makes sense that I work in a landscape, but it's up to you. So I've got my landscape page in front of me here. Now the first thing I'm going to look at is a website. So I'm going to take the website from the images that I found earlier, and I'm going to drag and drop the images onto my Illustrator page. Now remember that you can use Command minus and plus to zoom in and out. It's a nice easy way to do it. And remember to hold in from the corners, holding down Shift to keep it scaled. Remember, if I don't hold down Shift, it's going to become distorted. So it's really, really important that you keep things scaled. You can see it's got the blue cross. So remember to always embed it so that you don't lose it. And unlike Photoshop, once it's embedded, if you delete it off your desktop or your folder, it remains on the page. So it works a little bit differently here. Then I got a second part, which was the bottom of the website, which I'm also going to put on. So I just have to be clever now and make sure that I line it up. And then I want to embed that once I'm happy. Now it might be that I want to make the whole thing, so I'm selecting both of them here using the group selection tool, selecting over them both so they keep scaled. So now I've got a basic mock-up of the website in front of me. Now in terms of text, most websites are quite simple and use something that you can probably get away with, something like Arial. So if I start to type contact here, and then I can make it in uppercase, you'll see that usually something like Arial will fit, but take the time to find something that is relevant and suits the site. Now it might be that you want to change some of the titles at the very top. So it might be that you actually want to get rid of some of these that are already here. So what I'd simply do to keep things simple is get my rectangle tool here, create a rectangle over the top, and then use the eyedropper tool to make sure it's filled with the background colour. And if I click off, you can see that those are all gone now. And I can just change the text to whatever I want it to be here. Okay, so I've created now some new titles along the top and spaced them out as I wish. I've also just used the pen tool to create a triangle, which I'm now going to place along beside each word on the menu. Just copying and pasting it here. I'm using Command F to paste it, which pastes it in the same place, and I'm holding down Shift to move it so that it stays at the same level as the previous one. Just keeps it nice and neat, because the last thing you want is arrowheads at different heights and things. On that note, if you did find that you hadn't used Shift and perhaps a couple of your arrowheads are like mine now and a bit higher up than the other ones and you want them all aligned, hold down Shift and select each one using the group selection tool, which is the black arrowhead. Make sure they're all selected. Then get your align palette. If it's not open, go to Window, Align, and this will pop out. And then if you align via the top edges, and then you can just use your arrow button to nudge it down, and then you know that they're all at the very same height. It just looks nice and neat then. Now the next thing I want to create is perhaps a drop down menu. So I've gone back to the website just to see how they do theirs. So if I go to children's wear here, you can see that it's got the drop down menu, and when you click on something, it goes grey and then goes over. So perhaps I want to create a double menu depending on what I'm trying to illustrate on the website. So if I go back to my Illustrator, to create a drop-down menu, again, I'm going to get my rectangle tool here, which can be found here. If yours isn't a rectangle, it might be that it's still left as an ellipse or whatever was used last. So click on the shape, whatever it is, and make sure you select the rectangle tool. Now perhaps I want to go to women's wear and create a drop-down menu here. Now I don't want it to be black, so you can either go to the swatch menu and make sure it's white. I don't want it to have an outline, so it's perfect that mine's invisible at the moment, but it might have a red one. If it had red and I obviously just want it white, you just click through this red diagonal line, which means that there is no outline. So that's your fill and that's your outline. Been through that a couple of times. You can go back and change the size at any stage by going back and selecting your group selection arrowhead there. So I've got like a space now to put a drop down menu. What I'm going to do is get my text tool and start writing what I'd like my menu to be. Okay, so I've quickly written out a few items here. Remember, you can always go to Edit, check spelling, and always do that, even when you're doing a mock-up, just to make sure that you've not got any spelling errors. Okay, so I've got my text here. I'm going to go and get my eyedropper tool to make sure my text is exactly the same height as what I have had there. Now, over on my character, yours might not be open. Again, you go and collect it from here if you need to go and get it under Type, and then go to Character, and the menu will pop up. Now there's different things that you can do here. You can change the spacing of the lettering here. If you watch the words there, you can increase the spacing between the letters if you wish. You can also increase the spacing between the lines there. Now I quite like that, I think that looks fine. So I might want to go and grab my box. It might be that I want to make some adjustments. It might be that I see the box is a little bit too big here, so I can adjust the size of my rectangle. Again, making sure to do that I go and get my selection tool again. Now it might be that particularly I'm focusing on knitwear. Maybe they haven't done knitwear before and I'm proposing they add knitwear to their site. Now I remember back on the website that theirs is grey, so I'm going to select just the word knitwear. Make sure that the colour's at the front there. So if not, what you can end up doing is creating an outline on your text, which always looks really scruffy. So always make sure when you've got text, there's always no outline. So I've gone and got the black there, and I'm going to go to my menu and get grey here, just to make it more like the website. Then what I'm going to do is copy and paste this. So Command C and Command V is the shortcut, or you can go to Edit, Copy and Paste. I'm going to make a second menu here, just like theirs. I'm going to copy and paste this text here and create some options. Okay, so I've got some options here too, so I'm quite happy at that. Now it might be that I actually want to experiment with something like perhaps putting a drop shadow. So you can go to Effect, Stylize, Drop Shadow. Now these can come out quite heavy. I use the settings here of around about 30 for opacity and 0.5 millimeters, which I suggest you all use if you're going to do a drop shadow, because if they're too heavy it looks, again, just very scruffy. If I click OK, it pops the drop shadow there. You may or may not want to use one, it's entirely up to you. And then you can see that my text back here is behind it. So what I'm actually going to do is grab that text, and you can go to Object, Arrange, Bring Back, Bring Forward. In this case I want to bring it to the very front. And then I'm actually going to press Command Free to hide that, because I can't see the arrow that was there. So I've done Command Free, which hides this. And I'm going to do the same with that arrowhead. So bringing that to front. So Object, Arrange, Bring to Front. I'm going to also use Shift, Command, and the right hand bracket, which also does the same. And now you can see it's at the front. So again, you may not or may not want to use something like that. It's entirely up to you. Again, I'm using Command, Shift and the right hand bracket to bring that to the front as like a pop out menu. So the next thing I want to do is recap on Live Trace. So it might be that there's no social media icons, or that I feel like they need updating. So it might be that I'm suggesting that the brand that I'm working for needs to join TikTok. It's the latest app and everybody should be on it. So I've gone to the internet, found a TikTok icon. I'm going to drag and drop it onto my page here, just straight onto my Illustrator page, embed it so the blue cross goes. I'm going to make it a bit smaller. I'm just going to drag it to the side so it doesn't interfere. Now at the moment it's black and white, and if I trace it as it is, it will trace the black and the white, which means that if I pop it over here, it will always have that white outline, which I don't want it to have. So instead I'm going to go to Live Trace, the little arrowhead next to it, select Silhouette from the menu, and then you can see that actually it's taken the white out of there. And then I click Expand and it changes into a vector, which essentially means if I fancied it, I could change its colour. I don't want to at the moment, I'm quite happy with that. And I'm just going to go and zoom in and line up my new social media icon over there with everything else. You can just take a moment to make sure it's the, I'm going to make sure it's the same size as the Pinterest one here. Again, hold Shift. So I'm happy with that. So while I'm talking about knitwear, it might be that I decide that I actually want to have knitwear here, as it might be something that I want to advertise on the front of the website, it being something new. Either way, the sale I feel is out of date and that's got to go. So I found a piece of knitwear earlier from Uniqlo, which I stole. Just dragging and dropping it on my page, you can see it's covering everything up. So I'm pressing Embed to get rid of that blue outline, blue cross, using Shift and taking in the corner to make it smaller. I'm now going to just sort of place it over where that sale sign is. Then I'm going to press Command Free to hide it, the image. So I'm selecting it and hiding it by Command Free. You can also go to Object and Hide, which is here. I'm now going to create a rectangle, doesn't matter what colour it is, and just sort of place it over where that sale image is. So I've now got a white rectangle on top. If I press Command Alt and Free, or you could go to Object and Show All if you hit it the old fashioned way. I'm going to hold, then select the white rectangle, then select the image that's in the background. It's really important the photographic image, because I'm wanting to essentially crop it into this rectangle shape, is in the background. So I've got that in front selected, selecting the photographic image. So you can see they're both selected now. If I move it around, you can see. And then I'm going to press Command and 7, or you could have gone to Object, Clipping Mask and Make. You can see it says Command 7 there as the shortcut. Now obviously that image is now above my menu, which I don't want hidden. So I've got that selected. I know that I've got the photo of the Lunar and Curious website in the background still. So I'm just going to select the photograph that I've cropped in and the Lunar and Curious website, and go to Object, Transform, Arrange, Send to Back. And you can see it's dropped it behind my menu there. So there you go, I've transformed that. Now just to walk through another scenario, it could be that maybe I don't want that image there. I could want maybe 4 images of different bits of clothing there. So what I would do is cover up the sale just purely with a white box. I'm going to hide that for a second with Command 3 again. I'm also just going to be careful to move my menu out of the way. So I'm going to select my menu, make sure it's just the menu selected. If I've got something selected that I don't want selected, I hold Shift, select it, and it will unselect it. I'm going to move my menu for the time being just up here, and I'm going to press Command G, which is going to group that all together. That means whenever I select it now, it's going to remain together. I'm going to reveal everything, so Command-Alt-3, and I've got that white box there. I'm just going to draw some boxes. I'm actually going to do this, it could be in any colour because they're going to be filled in with images in a moment. And it might be that I just want some images of some knitwear. So I'm going to copy and paste that, Command and F, copy Command C and Command F to paste on top, and holding Shift to move it along. Now I want to make sure they're all aligned from the top and distributed evenly horizontally, so the same gap. It might be that I hold Shift and just bring them all in so they sort of fit the website. Now I've been and found some images earlier on and just put them on the top of my screen here, just again make sure they're all embedded. I'm going to put this one here. Now it's actually sitting behind the white rectangle here, so again I can select my rectangle and the back and go to Object, Arrange, Center Back. And I want this knitwear to fit just behind that purple rectangle, so I've got it like that. Then I select the purple rectangle, or whatever colour you've chosen, and the image, Command 7, or Object, Clipping Mask and Make if you wish, whichever way you prefer to work. I'm going to do it the same for the other one, so I'm dragging this one here. It's naturally behind the purple at the moment. What I could do if it was in front is move it to the side, to select the purple one and go to Object, Arrange and Bring to Front if that's easier, especially if you've got lots of things going on because you don't want it to fall behind the white rectangle or the background. Move it along, get it to the right shape, select the purple one and the image is behind, Command 7, Clipping Mask. So I'll quickly do that with these other two. I do this literally all day, every day, so don't worry if I'm being a little bit faster than what you guys can get used to doing. And finally that last one. Now it might be that I find that this one with the coffee mug is not positioned quite rightly. So what I can do is go and get the direct selection tool, which is the white headed mouse, select that image and I can move it inside that clipping mask, so inside that rectangle. So the same thing, I can make it bigger and smaller now and it will stay in that rectangle, or just move it around, but make sure it's the direct selection tool, the one with the white arrowhead, just to make any edits. I'm now going to go and get my menu and bring it back down here. And you can see that actually my menu is now behind everything. So I'm going to go to Object, Arrange, bring to Front. I want it at the very front. And I have to just sort of, again, make sure that I'm going to zoom in a little bit here, that my other menu's at the front too. And my arrow for women's wear is hiding. So I'm going to do Command 3 and hide my menu and bring my little arrow back to the front. So everything is now at the front there. And that's the second way of doing it with some different images. And again, if I hide these images and hide the white rectangle, you can see everything's still there in the back. I've just sort of layered things up. You can still adjust them. I can see that mine's a little bit off the side there. And then it might be finally that you actually just want to write a bit of information about each of these. So I'm going to draw a text box. It's best to do it to the side because sometimes it might want to actually write the text within one of these and then bring it over. And then you can put whatever information that you want in there. It's obviously just put random text in to begin with. Okay, so I've added a little bit of text here. It might be that I also want to just have like a line there just to, I don't know, make it look a bit fresher, maybe just a black line. So I'm making sure that my line, because it'll be a line rather than a fill here, is black. Might want it to be a little bit thinner than that. If I zoom in a little bit. And then what I could do is copy and paste that for each one. Again, just make sure they're all lined up with the edges. I'm going to make sure all of these are lined up as well. Make sure each of these are lined up as well. Make sure I've just got those selected, nothing at the back. And then I'm going to actually just get my group selection tool with these. It's a little bit easier to select things inside and align those to the top too. So there we go, that's it. So once it's finished, I'm happy with it. You can add obviously a lot more and do a lot more things than I've done, is save it, always save it, that it's editable, so call it what you wish. And then if you wanted to eventually take it into InDesign, there's no need to take the Illustrator in. So what you do is go to File, Export as a JPEG or a PNG, it's entirely up to you. And then you could take that into InDesign. And then again, you might want to then do some illustrations, for example, On this website here that somebody's created, they've just done some lines and arrows and text explaining what each thing is. So you could do a line and arrow saying we've added knitwear, or that we've added TikTok, or we thought that the front header should be changed, or maybe you've updated logo. Whatever it is, just do some annotations in InDesign on the JPEG that you've created in the background, explaining and annotating what you've done. And that's a perfectly good way of doing an example of what a website looks like. Now, the only other thing you may want to do here is make it look a bit more realistic. So I've got a website, but it obviously looks very flat. First of all, make sure that everything is unlocked. So you can go to object, unlock all, mine's all unlocked, so there's not an option to do there. And show all, so if anything was hidden. Then what I'm going to do is select everything. So I'm using my selection tool and selecting over everything with what I call an imaginary rectangle, and everything's selected. I'm now going to group that all together so that menus don't fall off or images get lost. So now I've grouped that. If I try and select something, it's selecting it all together, which is really helpful. Now what I want to show is, obviously this is what it looks like on a desktop computer. So earlier on I went on the internet and found some desktop computers and iMacs, things that I might want to sort of display things on later. So I found this iMac. Now that's got an image in it, so that's quite maybe difficult to use. So what I'm going to do is take it into Photoshop quickly. You could just take it into InDesign and do a white rectangle on top of it if you like, but what I'm going to do is actually just show you a skill here. So I've got this into Photoshop. I'm going to, first of all, with the layers, undo the padlock, which you just do here. If not, it won't let you do anything. Then it might just be that I can just take out a rectangle here, so I can get the rectangle tool, which is up the selection tool here. It could be an ellipse or something, so make sure you select rectangle. And I'm going to zoom in a bit, not too much, and create a rectangle here, and literally click on the delete button on my keypad. And when you've got that hashtag hash grey and white checker on the background, it means now that that's transparent. Now, just to make sure, I'm also going to select, using my wand tool, which is this one here, the white background. So everything in the white I'm deleting now too. And as I click on delete on my keyboard, you can see that that's also gone transparent as well. And now I'm going to press Command D, which deselects that. You might even want to crop it out a little bit too. You don't ever want things too big. So I've cropped that out. And I'm going to save that as a PNG file, which I get from my drop-down menu here. Save, and you can click OK when you get those options up. So now if I go back to Illustrator and I go to find that, which I saved just over here, I've got my PNG. I'm going to drag and drop it onto my page. And as I bring it over, you can see that it's actually got a transparent screen. So I can actually pop it over. I'm going to click embed here too and put it over my website. So that's at the front now. Now I grouped together my website in the background, so it might be that I just want to shrink it down so that it fits onto the screen. And here we have it, something that looks like a real website mock-up on a desktop computer. Now don't worry if it doesn't fill the whole screen, your website mock-up. If we actually go and look at the Lunar and Curious website, you can see even on my desktop, because it's quite wide, that there's lots of white space at the edge, so don't worry about that. It's up to you if you want to go and make things bigger. It could always do a second laptop showing the bottom half of the website. That's entirely up to you. And again, if I wanted to then take this into a PowerPoint presentation or perhaps into InDesign, I'm going to save this as a second example. So I'm going to call it example 2, just so I've got an example of just the plain website and it on my desktop computer. And if I want to take it into InDesign, instead of taking the AI file, which is quite big, I could go to File, and we do it as Export in Illustrator, Export As, and you could choose either a JPEG or a PNG option. Then click Export, and RGB always when you're using it on a website or whatever. Now, as I mentioned, there's no need to obviously create websites unless you actually have to. You can just do mock-ups for kind of brand proposals, or if you're pitching to a brand about a new proposal for their website. So then I'd work in InDesign. So I'm now back in InDesign. I mean, I don't have a project, I've just got a page open. But I'm going to go to File and Place and find the image that I'm wanting to use. So I'm going over here, and it's L&C example 2. And then I'm just going to place it in InDesign. Now it always looks a bit pixelated, so just for the sake of this presentation, I'm going to put my view onto high quality performance. And then what I could do is literally just draw some arrows. So perhaps I want to state that I've added TikTok there because it's a new and upcoming or the latest app to use. So on the end of a line, I could have at the start or the end an arrowhead or whatever it is that I want to use. Let's find an arrowhead here. And then you can literally add text saying exactly what it is that you're doing to the website. So it might be that you want to do some other arrows. Perhaps you've added a chat icon at the bottom. Maybe you want to mention that, or perhaps we've talked about doing this knitwear here, so we definitely want to sort of mention that we've decided we're adding knitwear to the website and that we're using these new images. So making it look nice and neat, but literally just some arrows with some text that you can talk over would be absolutely fine to do a website mock-up of your choice. Now, if you've followed along so far, then you've probably got enough skills to be able to do the same to an Instagram app or a TikTok app or whatever. It's just a case of finding images, laying up with the white rectangles or the coloured rectangles. But I will just show for anybody who does want to carry on how you could mock up something from Instagram. So I'm just going to move this literally to the side for now, because it might be that obviously on Instagram I want similar kind of things, so I can just take it from there. So I took some screen grabs on my iPhone of the Lunar and Curious Instagram page. So I'm going to pop these on here. Now, one thing to mention that I've had issues with, especially when taking screen grabs from my phone, is that actually when I pull them on to my Illustrator page, this happens. Now don't worry, because obviously when I was back here, it looks absolutely fine. So all I do with this is take it into Photoshop and save it as a JPEG, and that seems to get rid of the problem. So you can see that it's called image 4992 copy now. And now if I go and find that again, copy as a JPEG, which is what I just created in Photoshop, it seems fine. So again, we can just make sure that I embed these. Now it might be that there's a number of things that I want to do here. It might be that I don't find this image quite so engaging. Perhaps I want to find something different. So I found this new image. Again, it's coming really large, so I'll just make it smaller like we did at the beginning of the tutorial. I'm just going to put it to the side. Now I'll just draw a rectangle over the existing image and fill it in with a colour just so I know where it is. Put this image so that it's behind there, make it a bit smaller. And then just like I've done before, I'm going to get the coloured rectangle on top, the image that I want to crop, Command 7 or Object, Clipping Mask, Make. And then I've changed that, so it might be the image inside that I need to adjust it a little bit. I can see it's hanging out towards the end. So you can just go and select the group selection tool, which selects just the image inside, move it along, move it around. And it might also be that I don't want this Lunar and Curious search thing at the top. You can always crop the image at the back by clicking crop at the top and then pressing return if you wish. So the crop tool is always really good, which is up here, just very simple to use, and as you'd imagine, if you need to. Now when it comes to fonts, I've found that Arial is quite similar to it. So if I write Lunar and Curious, and you can see that it's very similar kind of text. So using Arial is what I'd recommend if you're going to edit any text on a Facebook or Instagram page. Now it could be that actually I want to change this image too. And it might be that I've found or found a new picture of the owners or whatever. But obviously this is a circle shape, so this is a little bit different, but essentially the same. So I've made that image smaller. I'm now going to go to my rectangle tool and find the ellipse tool. Now if I just draw it without holding down shift, it goes to an ellipse. If I hold down shift, it keeps it as a perfect circle. So I'm going to go and make sure the circle's about the same sort of size. Place my image behind the circle. Remember, you can always use Object Arrange, bring things to the front or send it further back. Select the circle and the image, click Command 7 or Image Crop. And again, I might want to just go and get the group selection tool and select the image inside and make some adjustments. It might also be that, I like things that are quite colourful, so I'm going to get the group selection tool and select the circle that's on the outside. It's got no fill or outline because it's obviously just a clipping mask, but it might be that I want to add a nice yellow to it or a blue or pink or something, just to give it a bit of a pop colour, so you can play around with that too. And then that gives me quite a nice kind of cover image there for how I'd like the front of the Instagram page to look. So I've now updated, this was and actually a Facebook cover for social media, and then I've got some pieces here for an Instagram. I've actually updated these. If I press reveal, you can see what I've done here. So I've added in the new photo at the top. I've added in some knitwear here, some knitwear down the bottom here. I've updated one of the stories here with some knitwear as well. And the text here, I've just updated it to say new women's wear, use code at checkout, for example. And all I did is put a white rectangle at the back there, just so that you could see my text on the top there. So I've got all those ready, but again, they look a bit sort of flat here, and if I put them into a presentation like this, some people might be wondering what on earth they are. So it helps to put them in a bit of context. So I'm actually going to go and grab an iPhone that I found on the internet, pop it back into Photoshop, get my selection tool. I'm going to delete the backgrounds. Remember to take the padlock off first. That's the reason why it won't let you do anything, and it gets really confusing if you've got that on. Then I'm just going to crop the whole image because I don't need a huge transparent background. Now, it might actually be a little bit difficult to select all these different colours, so it might be better to select. Now, it might be more difficult to select this one because obviously there's lots of different colours, and the Magic Wand tool just likes to select separate colours, so I don't want to spend hours and maybe miss pieces out. So I can use the magnetic quick selection tool here, and I'm just going to grow bits. And actually I can delete as I go along, which makes it a bit more helpful. Just like anywhere else, you can press Command Z if you do something a bit wrong. There's some bits in there, so I'm also just going to grab my rubber tool, make sure that I've got a hard edged one, and just delete inside here. You always make sure the flow's high and the opacity's high, and it just gets rid of any extra bits here. And I will actually save these templates and share them with you guys so that you can actually use some of the ones that I've created. So I'm now going to save this as a PNG. Remember, that just keeps that transparent background rather than filling it with white. So I'll just call it iPhone empty. Save it to my technology file. PNG, there we go, perfect. So now what I want to do is, you could obviously, if you'd used a separate document hopefully for this, so I'm going to get rid of my iMac that I used earlier because I've used all the bits that I wanted on there. I'm going to bring in my iPhone from my technology folder that I created, iPhone empty, that was it, and bring that in here and embed. Now I'm just going to move that to the side, and actually I'll delete my Facebook one because I'll just concentrate on Instagram for now. It's the same thing you do with Facebook or TikTok or any other app that you're editing. So I'm just going to group these different areas together. So I know that's one page, so I'm pressing Command G so that all stays together so that images don't fall off. Group that and group that. Then I'll bring my mock-up, make it large, make sure it's at the back, and bring that over. I might want to make the whole thing a little bit smaller as well. It might be if I'm missing it, I might want to move things up and down depending on what bits I want to see, for example, just to make sure that all of that's in. Then I can copy and paste the iPhone. And the best thing to do is lock it, because if I'm going to try, I can't select the background, it's just going to select the iPhone because it's at the front. So I'm going to lock it by pressing Command 2, or you can go to Object, Lock Selection. So then I've just got this in the background. And then once I'm happy with it, I can unlock Object, Unlock All. And then I'm going to copy the iPhone one more time for the last one. Again, I'm just going to lock it while I just fit this background in to where I want it. Then unlock again. Now what I'm going to do is group each one with their background. So I'm going to group that one, move it there, group that one, and group that one. And then what I could do is just work out how I'm going to lay it out. Remember to go to Object and Range, or to use Command, Shift, and the bracket tool to bring back and forth. So Shift, Command, and the right bracket tool brings it forward, and the left bracket tool sends it back. So forward and back. They're good for things to use, or if you want to do it the old-fashioned way, or the slow way, as I call it, or arrange, bring to front, or object, arrange, send to back. So I'm going to bring mine to the front. It might be that I want then that one over there, and perhaps that one over there. And again, I can use the align tool to make sure that they're both the same height, and position that in the middle. And then I've got a bit of a mock-up of how I see that my app working, with all my new knitwear bits, my new knitwear pieces. You can still see that that's editable within there. I can still get rid of photos. I can still go back and edit. So then what I can call this, I'm going to save it something new. So Insta Mockup. And just like if I wanted to now take it into InDesign, I could go to File, Export as PNG. And then just like I did with our website, if I get rid of my website now in InDesign, I'll go to File, File and Place, find my Instagram mockups. And then what I can do is just do my arrows and say that maybe I've put a new image here, or I've updated some text here, or whatever it is I have done, and just illustrate it like that. And that's perfectly great as an example of something that you can do as a suggestion for social media mock-ups or websites using Illustrator, Photoshop and InDesign. Most of all, I hope you have fun with it. I know it's a long tutorial, but there was lots of new skills here and it is exciting what you can do with it. So enjoy.